This is Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. We do this every day from 6 to 7. Sit around. We talk sports, whatever is relevant in the sports cycle of the day. Try to keep it a little bit more local here. The stuff that you care about. But we get into Olympic coverage here because it is the season, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in the Olympics. And outside of everything that has failed in the Olympics, I want to talk a little bit about the Ryan Lochte story because he was held at gunpoint. So he claims, and apparently the Rio police have a problem with him claiming this. And so they want to hold Ryan Lochte in Brazil. They're trying to hold his passport and seize him in Brazil. And that story got really, really weird, really, really fast. So I want to talk about that. Deshaun Watson has he's got a racism claim. So we'll talk about that too. And Butch Jones and the University of Tennessee, the Officer Sam Brown, who is a University of Tennessee Police Department officer, relieved of his duties for making a call to Butch Jones. And he disputes the being relieved of his duty. He disputes all of it. He doesn't agree with it. So we'll talk about those things and, as usual, many, many more. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. This is a show that is on the radio, but it's on a number of different places as well. We've got a number of different platforms where you can reach us. If you want to get the best in local sports news, make sure to check out Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You just have to do it. You get all of our local programming. You can also get to those social media sites from our website, hotnewstalkradio.com. We stream 24/7. We've got a nice little website for you to use there as well. And of course, if you want to use the TuneIn Radio app, absolutely free in your favorite app store, simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite, press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go, whether that be at work or on the road or grocery shopping or taking the kids to football practice. Whatever it is, you've got the show. So I want to talk about Butch Jones and this particular case because it's interesting because we knew something was going to happen here. What has been done is not protocol at all. Officer Sam Brown, if you recall the story from a couple of years ago, he arrested a couple of players, a couple of players got arrested, and he was involved. And it was A.J. Johnson and Michael Williams. And during the investigation, or before the investigation really began, he gave a courtesy call to Butch Jones and the University of Tennessee to let them know this is what's happened. And then Butch Jones, there is a number being called from, it's a number, Butch Jones's number is calling the players, trying to find out, I guess, what happened or whatever it was that they said. You only have the recorded length of the conversation. You don't have anything actually written down as to what was actually said. But that is obviously a violation of protocol. The UT spokesperson basically came out and said, that's not at all how we do this here. You don't ever call the coach after a couple of players have been arrested. You don't even call the athletic director. You call one of the finance officers, one of the assistant chancellors. You call those people, and then the word down the food chain gets back to the football coach. That's how he finds out. And the reason why you obviously wouldn't call the football coach right after something happened is because there's an obvious conflict of interest there. The football coach is trying to cover up stuff. The football coach wants to make the school look good. Talked about that a few days ago. Football coach's job is not to win football games. It's to make the school look good. In that is winning football games, obviously, but it's not simply winning football games. You can win all the football games you like. If you make the school look terrible, you will be gone. You got to make the school look good. So obviously, the football coach wants to make the school look good. Butch Jones wants to make the school look good. What he's going to be telling those guys, try and get your story together, try and say everything the right way so that you don't get into a ton of trouble and make us look awful. It's going to be stuff like that. That's what he's going to be telling those guys to say. Yeah, he's not going to be sitting back and going, hey, you guys okay? Tell the truth now. That's typically not how that goes. And it's not in his interest to do that, which is why that decision should never be left up to Butch Jones. You need to call the proper people along the proper channels, which, as it has been stated multiple times, is not Butch. He's got an obvious conflict of interest. And so Sam Brown has been relieved of his duties, and he will be retiring soon. It's one of those things where it's kind of a no-brainer. He had to go. He had to go. Sure, take as long as you need to investigate before you let him go, but when you got all the information that you have, you got to make the right call on that one. And Officer Sam Brown let go by the UTPD. He's relieved of his game day duties and retiring soon. And there's a point where I feel bad for him, right? Like, he didn't make a great decision there, but he said, a 2-minute phone call basically ruined his life. Two minutes ruined his life, and I feel bad for him on that count, because it's really hard to look at somebody and go, do they deserve to have their life ruined over a mistake? But he said, he's made these kinds of calls over the years. His words were hundreds of these kinds of calls over the years. So this is a person that is either ignorant of the rules and ignorant of the protocol, or they are following on purpose bad protocol. And at that point, I really can't feel bad for you. Another reason I can't feel bad for you is 2 minutes to ruin your life. 2 minutes can ruin your life no matter what job you do. Right now, I'm on the air. If I say a word that the FCC doesn't like, I'm finished. And I'm not just here. I'm never getting a job anywhere if I'm just dropping bombs. Because I'm not Howard Stern. I don't have that level of talent, and I don't have that following. I can't drop bombs, and I certainly can't afford to pay the FCC fine for said dropped bombs. I'm done. It's not even 2 minutes. 2 seconds could ruin my life on the air. That you're always saying words if you choose to say something wrong, or if you're just not paying attention, you let your mind wander, you say the wrong thing, you're done. And not just this job. If you are a trucker and you get into a bad accident based on a mistake, you could lose your job. You could lose your job if you're a banker. True story. I worked at a Domino's Pizza, and the general manager of the store was a young guy. He was actually my age when I worked there. I was 21 when I worked at Domino's Pizza, and he was 21 as well. The youngest general manager in the area. Nice guy, really swell guy, but we had money missing from the store. And we could not find out who was stealing the money. Somebody was stealing money from our store. And long story short, he got released. He got fired because the money was being stolen on his watch. He didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't have a way of making sure that we weren't losing money. A couple of moments of a decision made by somebody else ruined his life. I mean, it happens. So I can't feel bad on you for that one. You got to know what the rules are, and you've got to follow them. And if you break the rules, even for 2 minutes, that could be the end of you. That's always going to be a possibility. And whether or not you thought you were following protocol, the perception here is the reality that that's not the protocol. That you've got multiple people telling you, this is not how this works. We do not do that this way. You don't call the football coach immediately after a couple of guys have been arrested. It's tampering with the investigation. We have not even begun the investigation, and we're behind the 8 ball because now these guys are corroborating their story with the football coach. I mean, this is a bad look, and you had to let him go. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying that is the effect of all of this, is ultimately you have to let him go. There's no two ways about that. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. A little bit more college football talk. You know what? No, let's jump to Team USA here. Team USA playing against Argentina tonight. And right now, as we speak, actually, don't have the score pulled up for you yet, but they have been the equivalent of the movie Now You See Me. They've been the equivalent of the movie Now You See Me. The movie Now You See Me is a horrible movie, by the way. Don't watch it. I'm not telling you to go watch it. If you watch it now, having been warned, that's on you. It's a bad movie. But there's a lot of big names in that movie. Morgan Freeman, Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Ruffalo, Woody Harrelson, Isla Fisher, Morgan Freeman, I already wrote that one, Michael Caine, and Common. I mean, there's some good actors in there. Bad movie. Look at Team USA's roster. Carmelo Anthony, Harrison Barnes, Jimmy Butler, DeMarcus Cousins, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Draymond Green, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, Kyle Lowry, and Klay Thompson. Like, this is all-stars on this team. It's just a team of NBA all-stars. The rest of the world has got great players. Like, I love that guy from Serbia that I didn't know about him until very recently, but I watched him in that game and I said, who is this guy? He should be in the NBA. He's that good. I mean, he doesn't really play great defense, but if you look at Team USA, I mean, you can't believe that bunch of guys plays great defense. So who are we kidding here? That guy should be in the NBA. The NBA, but Team USA is winning on, forget you guys, we've got more NBA players than you. Except that's not at all how you should be winning. You should be dominating just based on the talent that you have. But they're not playing very good defense. And I don't know if it's just disorganization or arrogance. I can understand not getting things going offensively. I can get that. I really can. Defense is all hustle. Defense is all hustle. And if they run out what they've been running out against Argentina, them playing the way that they are, having Manu Ginobili, they're going to lose. That is a fact. They are not going to win. And if they lose tonight, they get no medal. Not a silver, not a bronze, nothing. So, I mean, this is a pressure game right here. This shouldn't even have been a trap game because they destroyed Argentina in the friendly games, I guess you would call them, just the pre-tournament matches. But that's a different Team USA than the one we're seeing against Australia and Serbia and France. I mean, we're getting a bad team. And somehow the total, the sum is somehow less than all the parts. They're like the chicken foot of basketball teams, of Team USA basketball teams. You just have a bunch of talent on the team underachieving. Chickenfoot is a disappointing band that makes disappointing music, and that shouldn't be the case when you have Sammy Hagar from Van Halen and Joe Satriani from Playing with Mick Jagger and Michael Anthony from also Van Halen and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, you just shouldn't have it shouldn't be this bad. And yet somehow it is exactly this bad. And I don't know what to tell you. So we'll give you another update of that when we get the score coming in here in Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. But I don't have words for what this USA team is. Because it's utterly disappointing. You've got Kevin Durant. I think he had like 7 points last game. He took 5 shots. I mean, that's not going to work. You're giving up a bunch of points to people in not 48 minutes games, by the way. These games are 40 minutes. In 8 less minutes, you were giving up nearly 100 points a game. What is that? That's no effort. I mean, defense is all effort. I mean, far be it from me to criticize a bunch of other things, right? Like Coach K's rotations to me have been suspect, but I'm not a basketball coach. So rotate away. You know, a lot of the offensive decisions that a lot of the players are making, suspect, but I'm not out there playing with them. But defense, that's effort. And I mean, you go back and watch it. There's guys giving up backdoor cuts. You've got Kevin Durant just jogging back casually on defense. You've got to try. Okay, the rest of these teams, the rest of these Olympic teams are not playing. They're here for their country's pride. And I know you're out here for that too, but you've got to start looking like it or it's going to get ugly. And if you come back home with the talent that you have on that roster with no medal, because I remember how bad it was when we came back with bronze back in the 2000s. You had Jason Kidd and Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan. And that was a team that was, and Allen Iverson and Stephon Marbury. That was a team that I thought was also too talented to really end up losing the way they did. And they came back with bronze and everybody was upset. Like we had to rebuild Team US basketball stat. Like, can we believe how this has fallen by the wayside? That was in 2000. Now, 16 years later, and we're about to do it again. We are about to do this one more time. In 2000, we did this. If we come back with no medal, because I think this team is more talented than the 2000 team. From a shooting perspective, anyway. There's no reason for how bad Team USA looks. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Is Les Miles on the hot seat? And we're going to talk about some serious Louisiana stuff coming up around the corner. This is just pressing me. Is Les Miles on the hot seat? Because Les Miles nearly got fired last year. When you look at how Les Miles nearly got fired last year, it's absurd. It's absurd in the fact that anybody wanted to fire him in the first place. He just barely escaped with his job, and it was more politics that he kept his job than that he lost it. But then when you look at what Les Miles actually did last year, they played well. LSU played really well. I don't know if he's just being punished for having a championship talent team because they lost 3 games last year. But the 3 games that they lost were ugly. Just some hideous losses. And some losses in which Leonard Fournette especially just got taken out of the game, and there was no other option, which shouldn't be the case when you've got receivers as good as theirs. You got a defense as good as theirs. Like, you shouldn't just be taken out of the game like that. They got snatched out of games. Like, Alabama just destroyed them. And you know what? They're the eventual national champion. So at that point, like, how bad can you really feel about that loss? But if Les Miles puts together another season where they're not in the SEC championship game, especially now that you have a weakened Alabama with the amount of players that they've lost to the NFL, do you have to worry about the safety of Les Miles' job? I think you'd have to. I think you'd have to. I mean, I think Les Miles is a fantastic coach, and under no circumstances outside of him having a losing season would I fire him. I like Les Miles as a coach. You just don't find that many great coaches. They're so hard to replace. That's why this whole Georgia thing is really interesting with Kirby Smart, because Kirby Smart looks like he's going to be a really good coach. We don't know, but he looks like he's going to be a really good coach. But when you fire a guy like Mark Richt, who is guaranteeing you every single season, you're 10 wins. You've got 10. He's spotting you 10. Now, you may want to go further than that. You may want to go to a national championship, but you've got Mark Richt. You've got 10 games in the bag, year in and year out. If you jump with a new coach, no matter how talented that guy looks, you might be setting yourself up for a little bit of a regression. And is the fan base ready for that? Are they ready? I would say no, especially with Les Miles, because Les Miles has never been the guy that's like, hey, look, I'm going to give you your 10, 11 wins a season. Les Miles is the guy that looks like he's always going to threaten to win a national title for some reason. That every time you go down, who's going to win the East or who's going to win the West, you always have to throw LSU into the mix. And LSU hasn't had a good quarterback since Jamarcus Russell. And I don't want to hear that Jamarcus Russell flamed out in the NFL. Yes, he did, but he was a fantastic college quarterback. Since Jamarcus Russell, who have they had? Who have they had? They haven't had anybody at quarterback. And yet every single year, when you talk about who's going to win the West, who can win the West, it's Alabama, it's LSU, enter a third team. LSU is always in the hunt. And so it's weird to me that somehow Les Miles is on a hot seat. It really, really is. We're going to talk about some more serious things in Louisiana. And Deshaun Watson thinks that y'all are being racist. Or at least the media. Clutch with Keon Rose on Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. I'm Larry Daniels from Daniels Insurance, and on the average, our customers save $400 a year. We offer retirement vehicles and annuities in addition to other investment products that help you protect your family. Call 423-332-4774.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community, offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
A lingering shower storm still possible out there through the nighttime. Otherwise warm, muggy, lows into the lower 70s. For your Thursday and Friday, a few more widely scattered, mainly afternoon showers and storms popping up through Friday afternoon with highs low closer to 90. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Medical Center, featuring their neurosurgery and spine center, now open in Calhoun, Georgia. Stop putting up with back pain. For more, 706-529-9041. And I'm Gene Schwal, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Body cameras for Chattanooga police officers. That's what Police Chief Fred Fletcher and the City Council have been discussing. They're touching on all the issues surrounding the topic, including privacy for citizens. Both the Police Chief and the City Council seem to agree, though, that they want police officers to have body cameras on their persons by the end of the year. Fletcher said, in part, they have found them to be very useful tools and they feel they protect everybody very well, referring to the police officers. On Hickson Pike, a car careened out of its own lane and smashed into a Honda Civic, causing 4 people to be injured. One, the driver of the Honda Civic, had to be pried out of his car by the Dallas Bay Fire Department. The driver of the Trailblazer, which struck the Civic, was taken to the hospital by a relative in a private vehicle. And traffic is back to normal now at the 2475 split northbound after a truck is overturned on the ramp headed towards 75 north at the 24 junction. The debris was removed, and there's no word on any injuries. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So Deshaun Watson thinks you guys are speaking in code. I can't disagree with it because we all speak in code. We've got code for everything. And Deshaun Watson thinks that dual threat quarterback, that phrase, is a code used to diminish the passing ability of black quarterbacks. That the accent on the quarterback's ability to run seems to diminish his ability to throw the ball and the mental acuity it takes to play the game. And I have to agree with him. Now, I don't think it's malicious. I don't think anybody is out here on purpose going, hey, these dual threat quarterbacks. That's what we're going to call them because we'd like to call them something worse. But if you act like code does not exist, especially code for racism does not exist in this country, you are off your rocker or your head is in the ground. Because it exists. First off, we have code for things that are perfectly innocuous. Perfectly normal things we have code for. For instance, here in the South, you ever heard anybody say, bless your heart? I mean, you're not being nice when you say it. What do you mean when you say that? What do you mean when you say that? I moved from the North. I moved from Maryland to Texas. And the first time somebody said, bless your heart, I was like, oh, thanks. That's not a compliment. You're speaking in code. How about this? You ever heard anybody say, oh, well, aren't you precious? Yeah, that's not nice. I didn't know this before I moved to the South. Yeah. You speak in code all the time. And you don't do it to hurt anybody's feelings. That's just the way the language is developed. But you speak in code. There's code for stuff. Politicians use code for race all the time. Daily. If you hear a politician, politicians have certain words that they use when they want to say racist stuff, but they don't want to actually say it. You know what I mean? Politicians will use the word thugs liberally. I mean, who are they talking about when they say thugs? In fact, who is anybody talking about when they say thugs? Usually when you say thugs, the person you're describing isn't white. Despite the fact that if you just go based on the dictionary definition of the word thug, there is no racial connotation to the word thug, but in reality, there is. When you want to talk about Black America and its dependence on the government, you talk about welfare and food stamps. Welfare and food stamps. Food stamps always follows welfare for whatever reason. You hear about it all the time, and the code for that is black. I mean, despite the fact that majority of people on welfare and food stamps are white, when you talk about welfare and you talk about food stamps, it's coded so that we're talking about black people. That's just how it is. That's just a fact. And you ever hear this one from a politician? It's one that gets used around a lot. Sharia law. Sharia law is a great codified buzzword because it allows you to talk about Muslims. It allows you to talk about their religion. It allows you to talk about their culture. It allows you to assume lots of things about each individual. At the same time, you never said the word Muslim, so you don't necessarily have to cop to the fact that you were saying something racist. When you are. You know, I just come out and say it if that's what you mean. You know what I mean? If you're talking about poor people on food stamps and what you really mean is black folks, just come out and say that. So you can at least just be wrong to everybody. Just come out and say it. If what you mean by thugs are the way that black people are portrayed on TV, don't hide behind the word thugs. That's code. So when Deshaun Watson starts talking about people using the word dual threat quarterback or running quarterback as a code for black quarterbacks, he's not wrong. Before Michael Vick, because I think Michael Vick is the guy that really made it popular, that really had the exceptional running ability that almost seemed better than his passing ability. Michael Vick could take over an entire game at the quarterback position with his legs, and he could do it in the NFL. We've never seen a guy do it at the NFL level quite like Michael Vick did it when he was in Atlanta. When Michael Vick was in Atlanta, it was the Michael Vick experience. Michael Vick was a running quarterback. And when you said that at the time, it didn't have the racial connotation, I don't think, that it does now. Now that you've had a few, now that you've had your Cam Newtons and your RG3s, both are also black. But it's weird to me that when you talk about running quarterbacks, you never talk about the guys that came before Michael Vick. You know, people ran at the quarterback position before Michael Vick did. You know, people did that. I'm sure you did, but we didn't have that distinction made until we had more black quarterbacks in the league. When you talk about running quarterbacks, when you talk about dual threat quarterbacks, here are names that I never hear mentioned. Steve Young, Fran Tarkenton, Aaron Rodgers, Tim Tebow. All of those guys are running quarterbacks, dual threat guys. We don't use that same phrase and terminology with them. We talk about Aaron Rodgers. We talk about Aaron Rodgers as one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Aaron Rodgers has got a cannon for an arm. He's highly accurate. He breaks the plays, but he breaks plays with his legs. Aaron Rodgers is a running quarterback. A lot of GM's analysis of Aaron Rodgers is that he leaves the pocket way too early. Well, how could you say that if he wasn't a running quarterback? He can beat you with his legs. That's a fast guy. He's white. We don't use that terminology with him. Tim Tebow, Tim Tebow won a playoff game in the NFL. And the reason why Tim Tebow had, at least for a limited time, the success that he was able to have wasn't because of his arm. The windup's too slow. He wasn't mentally adapting to the game. It was his legs. The fact that Tim Tebow could take off for a run at any moment and it would be like trying to tackle a tight end. Well, isn't that what we say about Cam? Tim Tebow is literally, go back and watch the NFL Combine videos. Tim Tebow is literally a half second slower than Cam Newton. He's a running quarterback. I've never heard anybody refer to Tim Tebow as a running quarterback, even though that's exactly what he is. We only ever throw those words around to talk about black quarterbacks. And while that's not necessarily the most evil, malicious thing on earth, what it does is take away from the other parts of being a quarterback that we assume a quarterback has to have. We assume a quarterback has got to be able to throw the ball well. We assume, especially, that a quarterback has to be able to mentally play the game well. And I understand if you want to look at the NFL and go, well, you know what? I don't see race. Don't kid yourself. You see race. Everybody sees race. We live on Earth. We know what the score is. However, you can't just dismiss those things because there was a time when black people were not allowed to play the quarterback position for just that reason, that they were not seen as intelligent enough to play the position. And if you're going to codify it that way so that you can still get to say they're not all that intelligent, but they're doing a great job because they're a dual threat, that's racism, plain and simple. And Deshaun Watson is right to call you on it. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Those are the social media platforms we are most active on. And check me out personally on my own personal Twitter at SportsCloud. A couple of people followed me in the last couple of days. Made me feel happy and real good about myself for some reason. So there's that. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, hotnewstalkradio.com. If you want to stream us at work, whenever you're at your computer doing whatever it is that you do. Also, check us out on your mobile phone. Go to your app store, whichever one is on your device. Search TuneIn Radio. That's the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free. give us a follow in the app. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio. Press play. You have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. I use the TuneIn Radio app basically everywhere because I don't live in Hickson and Soddy Daisy, so I don't get the signal at night very well. And so I listen to Hot News Talk Radio on the TuneIn Radio app. Check us out. So one thing I want to talk about is Louisiana right now, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because there's a number of different things happening here. One, this is a sports story because the flooding that's happening in Louisiana is similar, actually, to the flooding that was happening in South Carolina last year. And LSU volunteered, donated a bunch of money to Columbia, South Carolina, donated a bunch of things, and tried to help those people get back on their feet. And now South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, is paying the favor back to LSU now that Louisiana is going through a similar flooding situation. And it's a heartwarming story. And it's literally the only reason I know there is flooding in Louisiana. I didn't know there was flooding in Louisiana. That upwards of thousands of people have lost their homes. That they're saying that the flooding is worse than Katrina. Nobody's covering it. And I think that's bizarre. I'm going to have to call the media on this. Where are you? Where are you? It's a controversial movie. A lot of people didn't like it. I am a Zack Snyder stan, and B, I'm a big Superman fan. So I watched Batman v Superman. I liked the movie. Most people didn't. I'm alone on that. Fine. But there was a quote in the movie that really got to me. And it's when Superman is as Clark Kent, and he's talking to the newspaper editor. And he's telling the newspaper editor, we've got to cover this story because when you choose to report on something, when you choose to cover something, you're deciding who matters and who doesn't matter. Which I just thought was just a powerful thing to come from a movie 2.5 hours long about a flying man punching a man who dresses up as the bat. That, though, stuck with me, possibly because I am in the media, and so things like that tend to stick with me. But you decide who matters and who doesn't. And the media is out here covering the riots in Milwaukee. We're covering everything else. We're covering everything that comes out of Donald Trump's face. We're covering everything that Hillary says. And I understand that those are important stories. And I'm not trying to diminish the work of the reporters covering those stories. I'm not trying to diminish even the importance of those stories. Because whoever is going to be president next, that's important. Whenever there's tense race relations in this country, that's important, especially what we have right now between the police and the black community. It's starting to come to a fever pitch here. And anytime we get to talk about those things, look, I'm game. Okay. I just spent about 15 minutes talking about race. Nothing makes me happier than doing so, much to the chagrin of everybody listening. But there is a point and a place where you've got to cover other stories as well. You can overcover one thing and underreport something else. And this Louisiana story has been underreported. And I feel like journalism is going in a direction that I do not like and I am not a fan of. And as a person who has been a radio junkie his entire life, I've listened to all kinds of great news reporters in my entire life. And I I actually originally wanted to be a newspaper guy. One thing that my 5th grade teacher did, she made us read the newspaper every day. That's one of the reasons I got so engrossed in sports, was that the sports section was definitely the most interesting part of the newspaper. So if she made us read a news article every day, why wasn't I reading the sports section? So I would read the columns of Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon in the Washington Post when we lived up there. And here's the thing. I learned a lot, and I respect newspaper reporters, but newspapers are dying. And journalism is changing as a result into Huffington Post level clickbait. And what ends up happening when you watch it on TV, when you watch it online, you might get your news from Facebook or Reddit or wherever, and it's all secondhand information that comes from journalists, people out there reporting things. And what's happening is we are reporting stories that people want to see instead of reporting the stories that people need to see. You don't necessarily want to hear about the flooding in Louisiana. It's uncomfortable. I've watched some of the pictures. There's a little kid sleeping on a roof. There's a little baby in a little stroller drinking milk while the floodwaters are all around her and her mother. I mean, they're uncomfortable photographs. They are, but you need to see them. And our thoughts and prayers go out to those people. And if you have anything that you can donate, please do. I don't know how you'd have to Google it, okay? Because I mean, those people need help. They need canned food. They need baby diapers. They need jarred food, peanut butter, what have you. If you can donate anything, if you can just find it in your heart to do that, do that. But I just think it's crazy and weird that we're not covering this at all. That this story is not being as big a deal as it's supposed to be. And the only reason why I found out was because I was looking up stuff on Les Miles today, and I found out that Louisiana State University is being inconvenienced by the flood. And I'm glad that all the players are safe, because I heard that some of them were missing initially and that they were worried about the players. So all the players that were in danger that turned out to be safe, look, I'm happy for you. And a former announcer for LSU, he was missing for a while. He was off the grid and people didn't know where he was. And then they found him earlier. But you're finding that thousands of people are losing their homes. They're losing their things, their possessions, and they don't have a place to be right now. And none of it is their fault, but because they weren't hit by a devastating hurricane, or because they're not riding against the police over there, because they've got, a couple of other things to be concerned with right now. We're just not going to cover them because that's not what sells. And part of it not selling is the media has decided that yes, you, dear listener, that's not stuff you want to hear about. Here's the thing with media, because it's a complicated relationship that we have with it. Media both tells us what is happening and tells us what is important and tells us what is normal, but also by our consumption, we tell the media what it is that we find important. And in this weird cycle of things, the media is finding that you're finding all of these riots, all of these controversial things to be more important than telling the story of what is happening with people's lives in Louisiana. And that makes me incredibly sad. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I wanted to get the Les Miles hot seat thing out of the way first, just because it felt like it'd be really weird to talk about Les Miles' coaching job and then talk about this. This is obviously the more important story. And Les Miles gave a shout out to Scott Van Pelt over at ESPN on SportsCenter for mentioning this. It's the sports shows that end up mentioning the stuff that the mainstream media ought to be covering. And look, I'm glad that any way that we could be connected to this, because this is what sports are for. Sports connect us to everything. They connect us to our communities, both local and further than local. And it disgusts me when I see the media, especially the national media, fail to cover stories that need covering. If a bunch of people are losing their homes in a flood, I'm looking at the pictures. They're not exciting. They're not flashy. It's not scary in the typical sense. Like the waters of the flood rose rather slowly. You could get out of the way if you saw it coming. And keep in mind, Baton Rouge, that's below sea level. Some rain is just going to do that. If you get a lot of rain, it's going to do that. And I think it's weird, too. A part of my brain just had it's a stupid moment, right? Where you just, I call it a stoner moment. when people get high, they have all of these ideas and they think their ideas are great. Stoner moment. What if we took all the water from Louisiana and dropped it in California, where they're having fires? The fires are being covered. The flooding, not so much. If it happened in New York, if it happened in DC, we would cover it. It's not happening in those places, and we're letting it slide. And the only thing that brought that onto the radar for me was the fact that the LSU Tigers play there. And that's disgusting. So Team USA, they're playing Argentina as we speak. And I talked to you earlier about the terrible time that they've been having on the defensive side of the ball. Because it's just dreadful. I can't think of a time where I've seen a Team USA team look this bad and look this beatable. Like I've seen Team USA teams more inferior to this one just rout the international competition. And I'm not going to lie. I do enjoy watching that on some level. However, it does need to be stated that it's something that does get taken for granted a ton. We just kind of assume Team USA is going to dominate everything in basketball. And people would rather not watch the games because you just assume, you know what, these games are going to be pretty boring. And I got to tell you, the rest of the world has been catching up for a while at this whole basketball deal. And one of these days, it's going to be like England and the World Cup. Look at England in the World Cup. When was the last World Cup that England ever won? Never. England has never won a World Cup because they invented soccer, and then everybody else, and I mean literally everybody else, has done it better. And we've created this, we've got the NBA, we've created the monster that is basketball, and the rest of the world is starting to get to the point where they're doing it better. Like I'm watching what Serbia's doing. Outside of the fact that there aren't really any black people on that team, man, they look like us. They look like us. I mean, down to their passes are flashy. Everything. They look like a dominant basketball team, and Team USA looks like a team that doesn't know how to play defense. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it's all effort. It's all effort. And they were playing their qualifying games, and they were showing off, and now it's coming back to bite them in the butt. Now the chickens are coming in to roost. You look like a team that isn't prepared to play against other teams that were ready to win a gold. They're not afraid of you anymore. It's like the Tiger Woods effect. When Tiger Woods started losing tournament after tournament, people used to be afraid of Tiger on Sunday, and now nobody's afraid of him on Sunday or any other day for that matter. We're about to be there. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours. Sons of Liberty, next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
With every election, the government always gets in. You're right to be angry. We have no free market. Red tape everywhere. Taxes crushing. There's no level playing field. Tomorrow may be a day of reckoning. But there is something you can do. It's personal safety, personal security, shooter supply and indoor range. Find the handgun or long gun suitable to you. Take a concealed carry permit class. Use Shooter's roomy indoor private shooting range. Get expert personal advice. Shooter Supply fights boldly against big boxes. It helps people understand firearms. A free republic has become a despotism. Let them choke on their swag. For us, we invest in personal safety. In the Second Amendment, fight back, shop local. The country is in a desperate situation, but you don't have to be. Shooter Supply, love your neighbor, buy local. 875-4868, 875-4868, shooters-range.com. Shop shooters-range.com. Think about the future. What about your kids?
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton, tax services, accounting, cash flow. We're small business specialists. I've been helping families and businesses for 35 years. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339. We make life less taxing.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
Rubber's tough, but foam rubber is soft. Foam rubber is the star at Stuff It Upholstery, which uses it to revive your couch, your embarrassing easy chair, your boat seat cushions. Stuff It Foam Rubber in Hickson covers Chattanooga and surrounding areas. Don't throw out that favorite easy chair that's grown haggard and barbaric. New life for your seat cushions. Premium auto-grade rubber foam for your restaurant, church, or business. Stuff It Upholstery brings comfort and relief. Go ahead, skid away from flat, dull, and droopy cushions. Relax, restore, revive. When comfort matters, Stuff It. 4608 Hickson Pike, 877-1616. Ask for Larry. That's 877-1616. Want a new look or better mileage to your truck or 4x4 off-road vehicle? Veer off your regular path, rumble into Diesel Off-Road Technologies in Soddy Daisy. Its mechanics and techs have 100 years combined experience making engines roar and exteriors sparkle. Lift kits, Nerf bars, roll cages, bumpers, steps, cold air intakes, all wheels, all tires. Customizing, performance tuning, repairs. Diesel Off-Road is the four-wheel specialist. Make your ATV or side-by-side safe and ready to roar. We'll get you in with no hassle. 8 bays, 8 techs, and 4 four-wheel drive specialists. Diesel Off-Road Tech does everything. DieselOffroadTech.com. Call 805-2800. That's 805-2800.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Soddy Daisy, Chattanooga.
California's raging wildfire.
There'll be a lot of families that come home to nothing.
Another twist in the presidential race.
Donald Trump shakes up his campaign staff for the second time in 2 months.
This is the CBS World News Roundup, late edition. I'm Bill Whitney. Veteran California firefighters say they've never seen anything like the blaze in San Bernardino County. It started just yesterday and now extends over 47 square miles. KNX Radio's Pete Demetrio reports.
It's tough to know exactly how many structures of all types have either been damaged or destroyed because of the nature of the terrain where this fire is burning. Chief Mark Hartwig is the fire marshal for San Bernardino County. He got an overview of the burned area from a helicopter.
In a word, it was devastating. A lot of homes lost yesterday. There'll be a lot of families that come home to nothing.
From this point on, the battle is to prevent the fire, rejuvenated by rising temperatures, increasing winds, and dropping humidity from destroying more homes and communities on the active flank of the fire. This fire is going where it wants to, with little that can be done to stop it until the weather changes, and that may not happen until later in the week. Pete Demetrio for CBS News, San Bernardino, California.
KNX reporter John Baird is in Phelan, 45 miles east of Los Angeles.
This was such a fast-moving fire that, they had more than 80,000 people chased out of here in a number of hours, and they are taking a cadaver dog out because They say the flames move so quickly, but they also tell me that they don't have any reports yet of anybody missing, but then it might be too early for that.
Authorities say a fire that destroyed 43 homes in Northern California last year was sparked by an illegal marijuana growing operation. 2 suspects fled the country before they could be questioned. The Donald Trump campaign denies that there's been a shakeup, but the candidate has made changes at the top.
This is Pam Coulter. With the addition of Breitbart News executive Steve Bannon to the campaign, CBS News contributor and GOP pollster Frank Lund says Donald Trump is doubling down on his in-your-face campaign style.
He's one of the toughest, most aggressive, most negative operatives in America today.
The campaign management overhaul comes as polls show Trump falling further behind Hillary Clinton a little over 80 days before the presidential election. Pam Coulter, CBS News, Washington.
Clinton, campaigning in Cleveland, said Trump's moves won't change anything.
He can hire and fire anybody he wants from his campaign. They can make him read new words from a teleprompter. There is no new Donald Trump. This is it.
Trump got a classified intelligence briefing today. He also held a roundtable with his own advisors, including former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
And this is something that needs leadership from a president like Donald Trump.
Trump said nothing while the media were present. The Dow down up 21 points at 18,573. Now this.
Control, this is QL1. Everything looks good on my end. Prepping for liftoff. Over. One more thing, QL1. What's that, Control? You've been talking a lot about Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans lately. What would you say is the best reason to use it? Well, it's completely online. It's easy to use. You can get approved in minutes. It's convenient. You can share your pay stubs and bank statements at the touch of a button, so you get real numbers, not estimates. And hey, QL1, I asked for the best reason. Yeah, go ahead and pick one. Anyone. That's tough. They all sound great. I think you're finally getting it, Control. 3, 2, 1. Rocket Mortgage at